Welcome back. Earlier today down in D.C., the Senate Budget Committee held a hearing on the state of the U.S. economy. Senator Conrad chairs that committee. He opened with comments about an economic recovery that's starting to slow and a budget deficit that's continuing to rise. Referring to estimates from the Congressional Budget Office, he said the deficit could approach 400% of GDP by 2054. That would create another financial crisis well before then. Senator Conrad, also on the President's Budget Commission, joins us now. And Senator, we got to start with taxes, and specifically the Bush tax cuts. You have carved out a somewhat unique position for a Democrat. A lot of folks in your party are saying let these expire for the top brackets. You're not in that camp. Why not?
Look, the general rule of thumb is you don't cut spending or raise taxes at a time of economic slowdown. So I would extend things for a period. But, you know, the real problem is we got to basically junk the current tax code and start over. So the larger message really is we need tax reform to have more efficient collection of taxes. Our current tax system is only collecting about 80% of what's owed. We can do a lot better than that. We also have to have in mind the competitive position of the United States, because when this tax code was written, we didn't have to worry about the competitive position of America. We were completely dominant. Now that's no longer the case. We have to pay close attention to all of the factors that affect our competitive position.
But this is a gospel you've been singing for a while, as has Judd Gregg, your ranking member on the other side of the aisle. Why now? What has convinced you that things are different?
Well, I don't think things are different. This has been my position for some time in terms of fundamental tax reform rather than rejiggering the current tax code, which is the Titanic. That's really signing on board the Titanic to keep the tax code we currently have. But look, we are still in a period of economic weakness. 1 in every 6 Americans is either unemployed or underemployed. So we've got to be careful not to do damage. There's no question in my mind we're going to have to ask more for those of us who have higher incomes. You know, that's going to be part of solving the long-term deficit situation. We're also going to have to rein in spending if we're going to control deficits and debt. It is going to require some of both. We're going to have to work the revenue side of the equation. We're going to have to work the spending side of the equation. And I'd just say to all of my friends out there who very much want to increase taxes on the high end, we're going to have to do that. There's no question about that. But all of this is a matter of timing, and it is a matter of what kind of tax code are we going to have at the end of the day. Well, settling for the current tax code, I think, is a loser.
Let me ask you, though, because a lot of people have painted the deficit commission that you're on as a placeholder, something that would buy time for the Democrats and for the White House not to have to raise taxes in an election year because they can defer and say, well, we're waiting for the commission's report to come out. And that gives the White House the ability to thread the needle a little bit.
You know, what's interesting here is this administration and this Congress has done nothing but cut taxes. Taxes are the lowest they have been as a share of our national income in 60 years. Spending is the highest it's been as a share of our national income in 60 years. So we got the lowest revenue, the highest spending. That's the reason we have an explosion of deficits and debt. That's understandable in the short term in an economic downturn. But it is not sustainable over time. And we are going to have to work on both the revenue side and the spending side. The question is one of timing. When do you pivot? Most economists tell us the economy still is weak, still vulnerable to additional weakness, and so this is not the time to pivot.